start here in Revelation 1:8, it's okay to question authority. John, a strong authority, says, I, John, verse 8 of Revelation 1, who am also your brother and companion in tribulation and in the kingdom of and patience of Jesus Christ. John was in that tribulation. There is your tribulation, period. Right? He was in the kingdom. He wasn't waiting for a kingdom. He's your brother. He's not Pope John. So it's okay to question premillennial popes of prophecy, I call them. So if they say that Halley's Comet in 1986 will wreak havoc on the Earth and those left behind will feel the debris from it, it has a 1,000,000-mile tail that's going to pummel the Earth. So if Chuck Smith says that, we can question it, right? He says, 1980, my understanding of biblical prophecies, he says, I'm convinced that the Lord would come for his church before the end of 1981.
Right.
I think we can challenge this, right?
Right, and if someone has a question about what we're saying today, how would they actually call in, Gary?
808-296-5467. You are listening to Bible Prophecy Fulfilled, and you can check more about us on our website, BibleProphecyFulfilled.org. And again, the phone number to call in, 808-296-5467. So you want to jump in here, Terry?
Yeah, I thought we could switch gears a little bit and go into Revelation 1:8.
Sure.
And just start to read a little bit there, and let's see what one of the things I want our listeners to understand is that when it talks about the coming in the book of Revelation, even like the last verse, come Lord Jesus, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
If we understand that the coming it's talking about is not some kind of where he's going to land and on a fluffy little cloud somewhere, and he's going to make sure that everything's okay. We have to see that the coming that it talks about is a coming in judgment on his enemies and a deliverance of those that love him.
Exactly. Matthew 26:64, Caiaphas is told, you will see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
Yes.
So Caiaphas, who's judging Jesus, is told by Jesus, you will be judged by me, because he says coming in, let me just read that, because it does mention clouds, right?
Yes, it does.
I misquoted it, just did a paraphrase, but 26:64, Jesus said, you have said, nevertheless, I say to you, Caiaphas, hereafter shall you see, and that means discern, perceive, understand, the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. A first-century individual is told he would see Jesus coming in the clouds of heaven. And this is prophetic, apocalyptic language taken from the Old Testament, Isaiah 13, a judgment on Babylon. Nothing to do with God longboarding clouds physically.
Yeah.
Again, a carnal concept of God, but him coming in judgment on that man and that nation, Babylon. Isaiah 13, Isaiah 19, I'm going to come into Egypt on the clouds, right?
Right.
In 19:1, Ezekiel 30, another judgment coming in clouds, sun and the moon, the stars being darkened, lights out for you. Nothing happened in the material sun and the moon, the stars, or the clouds. And the same, you just see this prophetic language, also Ezekiel 32. And if you follow Psalm 18, you'll see David saying, "Man, the heavens bowed. There was lightning, there was hailstones, and all this stuff happens." And David's a prophet, right?
Right.
He uses prophetic language when this is my escape from Saul, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Nothing did have materialized in that prophetic use
physical
of the
creation.
Heavens and bowing down and all of this language taken from the Old Testament. A prophetic Jewish mindset interprets these things differently in the first century than we do in the 21st century with a hard, cold, scientific, mathematical mindset to the Scriptures. So that was a great point about the clouds there, Terry.
Yeah, and I just, verse 8 is really interesting because, Revelation 1 says, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty. Now, you quoted the verse that I believe in Matthew 26, which I think is key here, because Jesus said to Caiaphas, "You will see the Son of Man sitting and coming." He's sitting and he's coming. These are prophetic terms that describe the nature of how Caiaphas was going to get a revelation of Jesus Christ. He was going to be seen sitting. Well, he's not sitting on a rocking chair or a park bench. He's sitting on a
throne somewhere.
No, and it's just amazing. But he's also going to see him sitting. He's also going to see him coming. And it's interesting because you know what? When he says, "I am Alpha and Omega," the beginning and the end. In Genesis, he's Alpha. In the book of Revelation, he's Omega. He's the beginning and the ending. And it's all in him, which is so wonderful. But this word here, Almighty, is a key word because it comes from two Greek words that I believe will kind of sum up. Because remember, this book is not a revelation of the Antichrist or a revelation of the devil or anything like that. It's a revelation of Jesus Christ. And you and I believe Jesus is God, and he is the Almighty.
Well, it's just like saying "I am," right?
That's right, exactly.
Come, right?
But this word Almighty here, it's pantokrator, where we get two words, pas, which means like all, and kratos, which means power, strength, dominion. It means to seize. And the idea here is that Jesus Christ is being revealed to us as the one who has all authority in heaven and earth.
Isn't that what he told his apostles? Go therefore. The inference is go with that authority.
Yes.
Revelation 2 says, "I will give you authority over the nations."
Yes.
Fulfilling Psalm 2 by his body.
Yes.
That's Psalm 2, ruling with a rod of iron. That's Revelation 2, 26, 27, right in there. And so you have an authority given to the church literally in Thyatira. And what happened with that authority? Well, Acts chapter 17 says they turned the world upside down with that authority, the oikomene world, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's where the gospel went to, and then the end came. The gospel went throughout the oikomene Roman world, same world that the census went throughout. It's not the globe. That was fulfilled. Matthew 24:14. So we have to get a hold of it.
So I think, just in practical terms here, John is exiled. I mean, according to tradition, Nero tried to burn him in boiling oil, and he just kind of swam around in it. It scared Nero so bad he had to actually exile him. He said, "Get him out of my sight," put him on the Isle of Patmos. So he was there. And, here
let me emphasize the Syriac version of the New Testament, or Book of Revelation, confirms that, contrary to Domitian's quote.
Yes.
Just have to throw that in, sorry.
Contrary to Irenaeus. And
Irenaeus' quote of Domitian. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But so John is on this island, and he is, think about how he felt. How despondent and just, wondering, okay, why am I here? I'm by myself. I'm stranded. I'm by, this is, because Nero didn't normally exile people. He killed them. But if you can't kill someone, you got to do something with them. And this is exactly what he did with John. So he wasn't there with a bunch of other folks. He was there by himself. He was isolated. He was alone. But he needed a revelation of Jesus Christ. He needed to see someone else on the throne besides Nero.
And it's encouraging, because Thessalonians talks about the comfort that you have of seeing that God will vindicate those who are messing with you.
You got it.
You got it. Him seeing that this coming judgment, again, real quick on the clouds, remember what you mentioned with Caiaphas, same thing Jesus said in Matthew 10:23. He says, "You will not have gone through the cities of Israel, spreading the gospel, until the Son of Man be come."
That's right.
Coming in judgment. Parousia is the word coming, and it means literally, literalist, coming presence. Doesn't mean coming bodily, physically, visibly, right?
That's
literally.
Right. That's right.
Now, same thing in Matthew 16:28. He says, "Some of you will not die till you see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Again, some in the first century would not die, right?
That's right.
And if you just follow that, that's the amount of that's the transfiguration in the next verse in Matthew 17:1. Well, no, it's not, because nobody died within 6 days. That happened 6 days later.
Yes.
Some of you will not die. That means some would die. Nobody died in those 6. So we have to just back out, search the Scriptures daily to see if these things are that we're saying are so, and see if the things that are being said over the airwaves are so, and let every man be found a liar.
Yes.
Right?
That's right. Let God be true.
Amen.
That's it. So, here, it's just practical in the sense to where, this book is just unfolding to comfort John, to give him something. And he starts to say, I, John, who also am your brother and companion in tribulation. So not only was he going through tribulation, but he was aware of what was going on in his time, that there was this universal pressure by the empire against those who would not raise their hand and hail Caesar. They were hailing Jesus. They were saying Jesus is Lord, not Caesar is Lord. And you start to see this to where that he just simply says that I am your brother and companion and tribulation and in the kingdom and perseverance of Jesus Christ. Oh, you just start to see something here about how he needed to see this, because he was just on the doorway, the doorstep of seeing what God was about to do in him and through him with this book of Revelation.
In his day, in what he was going through. He's telling you, I'm going through this. I need something for it. That's what you're saying, Terry.
Yes.
And if you follow this thought through, again, the Scriptures were not written to us. They were written for us. Romans 15, 1 Corinthians 10, Scriptures are written for us, not written to us. The original audience, the original hearers were going through something.
Yes.
The world's worst persecution, and why, if it's to somebody thousands of years off, in chapter 13, would he say, you Christians reading this letter need to figure out who this beast is.
Yeah.
Here's wisdom. Figure it out. Why would God taunt and torment these Christians going through the world's worst persecution ever, worldwide? Why would he have them spend their precious time figuring out some enigmatic statement that was meant for somebody thousands of years off? This was written to a first-century audience going through something real, right?
Yes, that's
and
right.
So I just want to throw out, again, we're getting towards the end, if you want to give us a call, 808-296-5467, 808-296-5467. How can these things be? Give us a call.
That's right. Hey, that word where it says, the perseverance of Jesus Christ, he was in the kingdom, he was in the perseverance and in the tribulation, and those things right there. But that word for perseverance is also in Luke 21. And let me just read you in verse 16. It says, but you will be betrayed even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death, and you will be hated by all because of my name. Yet not a hair of your head will perish. But your endurance, your patience, your perseverance, you will possess your souls. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then recognize that her desolation is near.
When is this? We always want to ask what, where, when, who, how, right?
Right.
When did this happen? You shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is near. And same thing, verse 32, this generation will not pass till all these things. How can we discombobulate this thing and say, well, this is really meaning thousands? Jesus isn't really clear. We just kind of have to guess and speculate and make book sales with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. When, where, how, who. Right, Terry?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, the next place this same word is used, Gary, is in Romans 8:25. And we know the context of this.